So, long time no see. And welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. But you might be wondering why long time no see. I actually didn't record any episode yesterday. So yesterday I actually scheduled every single episode that was uploaded, which was quite great, to be honest, to some kind. On the other side, I just really missed it to be here, just, recording the episode and just putting in my fucking passion into what I'm doing here. And this feels great. And now I'm feeling great because I'm here and I'm doing what I love to do, or at least think I love to do. And, but on the other hand, it was quite great that you can do something else rather than just sitting there and doing your thing, which is totally also something great. So I do think that when I would be doing something in terms of my work, I wouldn't like to do the same whole shit all the fucking time. I think it would be just, quite bothering me if I was doing the whole thing or the same thing all the fucking time. But yeah, as you might can see, and totally I think can see, in the background, we are going ahead with the Charisma book that I've been going through, I think yesterday, practically. Yeah, it was yesterday. And I hope the other episode yesterday, which might have been about Jeff Bezos, probably. I do think so. Maybe, yeah, it was about Jeff Bezos. I do hope that this was quite great as well. So just go through articles and other stories rather than books. Just to have this certain experience or this certain maybe perspective of getting something else, not always the book shit. Even though I do just have to say that going through the books, especially on sites where all these things like headlines are there and they are structured and whatsoever, makes it pretty easy for me to go through them and just to kind of, maybe put them into a video so that people actually can learn something from that. But yeah, we are going ahead with the book and I'll be straight ahead, and it is working. That's fine, because most often I do just have to reattach the window to the window you see on the left here. It is so fucking disturbing that I always have to use my left hand to point to the left. I have to use my right hand to point to the right. But yeah, we're going ahead with Self-Compassion, and I would highly recommend you to go through the other episodes as well, because there was a great lot of information there, and you do not have to. Honestly, you just can go through this one with me, because there's nothing like a whole story, and you would have been just, out of context if you wasn't just, or if you weren't just going through the other ones as well. But it would help, and it would help you, I think, and you will gain a lot of great information there, in my point of view at least. I hope my teeth aren't, because I actually just ate something. I hope I'm just not looking like a fucking moron. It would be fine. Self-compassion. So self-confidence is our belief in our ability to do or learn something. And self-confidence, or I would actually say confidence, I don't know if there's something like self-confidence, but confidence is very important. And I do think that a lot of people lack confidence because they are thinking about what other people may be thinking about them. But it's total bullshit. Because the fact is, and you might just know this as well, or noticed this as well, that most often we just don't think anything. Maybe if there's someone who's just having red hair or blue hair, you might think, okay, this looks shit. But even if certain people just think something like this, just give a fuck about it. They just aren't telling you as well. They won't come up to you and tell you, okay, your hair looks completely shit. Please, please cut it away or cut it off actually. I don't know, or I don't think so that people would do this. And but a lot of people just value other people's opinions so much that they are some kind of crippled by them, or they just really are relying on them, which is something you shouldn't be doing, because they don't know anything about you. And this is just fact, even though the very closest people to you, maybe your parents, maybe your really closest friends, do not know everything about you. So And all these people who are outside there, they know shit about you. They know nothing about you. So do not get bothered by what they may be thinking. I struggle with it as well, to be honest, because I was often just wondering like, okay, I would really like to do vlogs more often and vlogs in different situations, for example, in public. But this is something I quite do not like to do because, it's in public and all the people are just, looking at you as if you were something like, I don't know, a monster. Funny, no, but this bothers me about me because I do just not think about what other people might be thinking, but I think it's not about confidence, but it's about really just doing, maybe. I don't know. Let's go ahead. Self-esteem is how much we approve our value or value ourselves. It's a comparison-based evaluation. And totally, because if you just compare yourself to a completely different person who might be in a completely different situation than you are, your self-esteem might go down. But that's total bullshit, because you're then just comparing yourself to a person. It would be the same exact thing as I would just compare myself to, I don't know, Trump or Obama or, all these, quite rich people. Why would I? If I just really compare myself with them, it's totally clear that I am just, I'm not having that much of a value than they have, even though this sounds completely dumb, because people are just really high in value, people are just really enormously precious. Totally. Self-compassion is how much warmth we can have for ourselves. It's based on self-acceptance. Please accept yourself. You can do a lot about yourself in terms of your mind and in terms of your body and in terms of your character. In terms of, by mind, I quite mean just learning more or just doing brain exercise. There are quite a lot of things you can do for your brain, and don't eat shit and don't drink any alcohol and just do not put as much drugs into you as you might have been. This will totally help with your body and with your mind, and maybe even with how you accept yourself and how you see yourself and how happy you are with your body and or your mind or yourself. Studies show it's healthier to focus on self-compassion rather than self-esteem, because it is not based on others. Totally. An exercise: list 5 ways you already care for yourself when you're having a hard time. And another exercise: take several deep breaths, imagine someone who loves you, let them tell you that you are forgiven and that everything about you is perfect, everything down to your imperfections. Even as you are right now, you are perfect. I quite wouldn't say so, and I do think a lot of people aren't thinking like this about themselves, which is, I think, first of all, totally normal and also totally good in some way, because just being like, I'm perfect and there is nothing to work about or to work on about me might not be that truthful to yourself. There is always something you can do about yourself, whether it's in terms of your body, you aren't that, in a good shape, or about your characteristics, maybe you're aggressive quite often. There's often something to change or to adapt. And that might be even a better word, because it sounds, quite not cute, but more like not so negative, I would say. But yeah, even though I do just have to say, going for perfectionism is total bullshit, whether it's in terms of your designs, whether it's in terms of your business, and whether it's in terms of yourself. There is not something like perfection. You might think, okay, there is something like perfection, but you will go so hard for this fucking thing, it's not worth it. And there is no fucking perfection. Nothing is perfect. You can either accept it or not accept it, but it will never be perfect. Most often. Sometimes I myself, when I'm designing something or drawing something, I really come to the conclusion, okay, this is really something that I think is perfect, or it turned out quite perfect. But then how often there are just some things like, maybe this type is a little bit too big, or maybe this drawing has, some, wrong shadings in it, or whatever. There's quite always something to just improve or change, because I wouldn't say that it is necessarily an improvement. Often I really came to the conclusion that, especially when I was working on drawings, that most often, or quite often, when I'm going for the perfectionism, then it turns out quite bad, and even worse than quite in the process of doing it. So at the end goal or the end product wasn't as good as in some stage in the process itself, which shouldn't be the case, And this just really shows you, okay, you did too much, and you did, too much in terms of you thinking you will be making it perfect, but it turned out to be not as good as it used or as it could have been. Using your body to change your mind. I love this one, and I will just fucking close it up. Well, it's not that a good idea, but yeah. So use your body to change your mind. Our mind affects our body language, but the opposite is also true. Use propose posture, take up space with confidence, poses, and smile. Choose your music carefully, it heavily affects your mood. I just love this fucking paragraph and all these just 3 points, because they're totally right. It's totally that our body and mind connection is so deep, and I've been talking about this just several times, but it's so deep and it's quite amazing, and you can just really show it, as they say it, by body language, or said actually by body language, because you really just act and you really posture how you're feeling internally, or what you're thinking, and if you're thinking internally. And you can probably see that most often, even though it might sound a little bit like, it's so obvious and whatsoever, if people are stroking their chin, they might be thinking about something. Even though, I do just have to say, if you ask them, they will probably say, no, it's not what it is. But they are. What the fuck? But they are. Sorry if it just bothered you that my fucking phone was so fucking bright. I might have disturbed you from actually looking at me, and that it is actually quite in the frame. Shouldn't be, or I don't want it to be. And also with the poses, because actually Harvard, I think it even was in 2008, so actually 10 years ago, and they quite proved that just by the way you're moving and by the way you're acting and how you speak, in terms of your tone of voice actually, and the speed and whatsoever, you can really quite just change the way you're feeling. If you're just sitting like this, like, for the podcast listeners, I'm just sitting like, with a very round back and just really kind of crippled or something, and I'm not looking like I'm confident. I'm not looking like that I'm feeling good. And I'm totally not looking like then, I don't know, that I have maybe self-esteem, or that I quite am happy with the way my life is right now. But if I'm being like this, and I just have a broad and maybe a triangular body position, and I'm straight up, my back is straight, and I'm just maybe speaking more in a way that is exciting for myself, or that I am excited about what I'm doing here, people definitely feel my enthusiasm, and also that I'm confident. I'm confident with what I have to say and with what I'm saying. And I'm confident, I'm feeling good. This is totally also something you can see. But it's not practically or theoretically about how others see you. It could be important in terms of a job interview or in terms of something else. But you also feel like it. And I can't quite validate it, to be honest. But I do just think so, because if it is like your mind just really changes how you act, or your just body language, then it just has to be the other way around as well. This is just something I believe in, and Harvard just kind of validated it. There is an article on it, you might be just going through it, and also Tony Robbins also says it, and these are just all factors that lead me to saying, okay, this could actually be true. And also with the whole music thing, I think music, if taken carefully or chosen carefully, can just really let you feel good. If it's happy music, if it's inspirational music, or even motivating music. And also I think voices, we all can surround ourselves with so great voices like Les Brown or Eric Thomas or Gary Vee or even Tony Robbins. There are so much people who just have a great experience in some kind of a context or whatever, and just listening to them, I think, or it always made me feel inspired and motivated and all these great things. But it also the thing with just always listening to negative stuff. It will also let you feel negative. Charismatic first impressions. People like those who are similar to us in both speech, demeanor, whatever this is, and appearance, and etc. Wear clothes similar to those that you want to attract. Develop a good handshake and avoid overpowering alpha male handshakes. Fucking hell, that's totally true. That's totally true. You know what? I do think the problem with the whole body language thing is that the more you know, the more you will use it, and the more the chances that you're actually using it in a wrong way or too over-saturated or too overexposed. What I mean is that people who know about handshakes will probably just use this certain handshake and whatever they're using, and it might be wrong, and people might just feel not as good as with a quite normal handshake. And this is the first one, but the actual thing is totally fucking true. Don't use or avoid the overpowering alpha male handshakes. Like crushing somebody's hands and some shit like this. That's totally true. But the first one is break the ice. Compliment something someone is wearing. Totally always great, but not also for the first impressions. I would totally say we all should do it more often in general, because people often wear great shit. That's for sure. And people often just, have something maybe about their character that other people like as well. And just pointing it out will totally make their day. It's not about how you will feel, it's about how they will feel. But also you will feel amazing because you make others feel amazing as well. If you're just telling them something like, okay, yeah, your coat is looking very fucking good. I love your character, I love your friendliness. And all these things that could really make somebody's day. Ask an open-ended question like, what's the story behind that and where is it from, and etc. And this first of all leads to the person just talking about themselves, which is totally a plus point. And second of all, it just leads to a conversation. And it really does. Rather than just being like, okay, do you feel good today? Then it's rather a yes or it's a no. And this is then the problem, because there's a closed and a question, or closed and a question, I think. Whereas there's just only a yes and or a no. Whereas with open-ended questions, and you might totally be knowing this, I'm not going to. Open-ended questions just, let other people just talk way more, and especially talk about themselves or what they think. But it's also something like themselves. Ask open-ended questions that don't have a yes or no answer, because there are no open-ended questions, using lingo that relates to what they are interested, same as Lyle Lowndes recommends. It's LEILLOWNDES. The graceful exits. Don't linger until it's weird, leave on a high note, offer them something when you leave, and don't worry about what you said or what... So don't worry about what you said or what to say. MIT study shows that how you make them feel matters. Okay, so it seems not be about what you're speaking and what you're talking about, but rather how they feel about it. And I totally think so. If you're just talking to someone and they, during your conversation, are feeling just great, why wouldn't they just be pissed about the whole conversation? Or why wouldn't they just, don't feel good about the whole conversation? Because, in fact, they just really, were happy during the whole conversation. So there's no quite reason to not like the conversation. I'm just thinking. If you need to save someone for a conversation, focus on warmth and charisma on the person who is going to lose and ask, I'm really sorry, but X is needed to do Y. Would you mind if I take them? This gives them the impression that they had a say in the matter and avoids hurting their feelings. Even though I do have to say, if you're just asking someone like this, especially if it's something like a stranger, so I'm not totally saying, okay, this is a person you have never met before, but a person that you have just quite met, just telling them, okay, if it is okay for them to just really leave, because there is somebody who just needs you or whatsoever, they will always say yes. Maybe if it's about business or something like this, they might be like, okay, don't you just want to continue with this? Or, or as I said, they might be just asking you if you want to continue this little talk with you in some other time or at some other time. So why not? So I do feel, okay, people will totally say yes anyways, but maybe just lets them feel differently. That's quite then about the period or they were telling like before, that it actually only matters about how they feel. Speaking and listening with charisma. To listen with charisma, be present, don't interrupt, and process what others said for 2 seconds before speaking. To speak with charisma. Speak about positive topics, make people feel good when you speak to them, find positive connotations, and take a compliment in full. Don't negate or don't say it's nothing, or you make the person who gave you the compliment feel they were wrong to compliment you. I think that's totally right, because people like to give compliments, even though they're not doing it all the time, and even though I do not understand why they're not doing it that often. But just being like, no, that's something like not true, or this whole shit that everybody's quite doing all the fucking time. I do feel it will just let the other person who is just complimenting you feel way better if you're just taking the compliment and being like, you're so nice, and thank you for complimenting me, or just something like this, or thank you for your attention, thank you for you just seeing this. That's not something a lot of people have seen before. I think something like this can just really up the positivity in the whole conversation. You can get more friends in 2 months by becoming truly interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. And just give a try. Who said this fucking great quote right now that I was just reading? So I'm gonna read it again. You can get more friends in 2 months by becoming truly interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. I give you, from now on, 2 seconds. 3, that's 5. Do we have an answer? Maybe write it down in the comments, actually. Or if you're in the podcast, DM me on all the platforms you might just like. All the links should be in the podcast description, or actually, I'm sorry for not just letting you see it. or actually in the episode description as well. Send it to me. I gonna validate it, or just tell you, okay, it wasn't. Or you might just see it anyways right now. So it is from Dale Carnegie, the author of How to Win Friends and Influence People, one of the greatest books I've ever read in my fucking entire life. Use metaphors and create images, because we're all visual animals quite. But don't use images when discussing negative things. Yeah, makes sense. Because to really just emphasize the good points or the positive stuff or the positive topics, and really not just underline and and just really point out all the negative stuff. Makes sense to me. Deliver high value. Speaking to someone means you demand time and attention, so you must deliver on it. Make what you're saying entertaining, give interesting or helpful information, or find a way to arouse good feelings. Totally. I like this book. I really love this book because there's so much in it that I would say, okay, this is totally something that I would suggest to other people as well. Often there's which is totally normal, and it makes sense that in some books there are great information, and there is a lot of great information, but sometimes, there are some points that I would say like, okay, no, I wouldn't say so, and this is not something that I would suggest to anyone out there. And that's totally okay, because we all have different opinions, but this is totally a book up to this point, I have to say. All these points are just really the points that I would say as well. Maybe there was something in a episode before that I was being like, okay, I wouldn't say so, I think this is not true, or something like this, but I'm not sure. I'm totally not sure. Voice power. Speak slowly and slowly. Pause frequently and lower intonation at the end of the sentence. Smile. It heavily affects how you sound and speak. I'm going to read it again, and I'm just going to use all these techniques or whatever they just told me, and let's see if it makes a difference. I'm going to just make the first one, so they're just normal, how maybe too enthusiastic person would just go through this, and then I will totally use what they say. So speak slowly and slowly. Pause frequently and low intonation at the end of the sentence. Smile. It heavily affects how you sound and speak. And not just how they would say. Speak slowly and slowly. Pause frequently and lower intonation or intonation at the end of the sentences. Smile. It heavily affects how you sound and how you speak. Does this make a great difference? I would say I do generally just speak like this, or how they pointed out, but not quite when I'm doing the episodes, actually, because I quite tend to get as faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. Which surely isn't the best thing all the time. It might seem like I'm enthusiastic what I'm talking about, or it might seem like, okay, I want to give you as much information as possible in the shortest amount of time, but not pausing, I think, is something that very disturbs myself, with me just being like, okay, how I view myself, or how I go through it, and also the people who are just, listening to me, I would say. Maybe we're gonna use it. And also check out Vocal Power by Roger Love. You know what? Because I deeply am interested in voice. Because I'm using my voice every day. And I do know that just, the tone of your voice, how you speak, if it's slowly, if it's surely, or if it's just really fast and enthusiastic, even though it doesn't have to be compared like this. You can also be just very fast and boring. I think it's just very important, and it just really is very important, and because it just quite determines how you feel to other people and how other people feel about you. I might be as a little bit, I don't know, it might be a little bit better to listen to me because I'm speaking a little bit slower and I'm just using more pauses. And but it also could be like, okay, I'm too slow for some people, which is totally something that's not great as well. So I often came to the conclusion that some people, especially if it's in terms of an audiobook or something, if they're talking too slowly, I quite feel like, I want to get more information. And I feel like, okay, I could get more information if they were talking faster. The good thing about this is that often you can really just determine in the apps and whatever you're using how fast the playback is. If it's really slow, and you can slow it down and you can fasten it. Even though I have to say, okay, this quite disturbs the whole experience because it manipulates the way the audio is. It's if it's faster, it might be not as accurate and maybe a little bit pitched even. And if it's slower, it might seem like the whole thing is broken, which is totally not great. But yeah. By the way, I hope that you like the outro. I do just really have to see if it's actually called outro because I don't fucking know. Can you see my button up? Is it a button-up shirt? I don't fucking know. You know, this nice shirt that you're wearing with the suit. It's not a polo. Is a polo? I don't fucking know. But yeah, I hope you've got something out of this episode, and I quite truly know that. I hope it just was a little bit of a fun, just, listening to me and what I have to say. And I do hope that I could just provide additional information to what I was talking about and what I was reading, which is totally something that I'm going for, because just only reading it is not enough. Just reading it just leads to people like, okay, I could go through it on myself as well, and I would just quite save a lot of time. But yeah, I hope you're doing well. I hope you get your health, wealth, happiness, and especially also success, even though happiness for me is totally something I purely wish you. I wish you all these things that I was just saying, but the most thing I wish you is happiness, because I truly believe in happy and being happy, and just when you're happy, that everything else doesn't quite matter anymore. But on the other hand, I do just want you to quite think about your legacy and about giving back to the people that you are not serving yet, because you're not giving back to them. With that being said, I hope you have a wonderful day or night, and I'll see you right ahead, because I might be just recording the other episode right now. I'll see you.